Hello, and welcome back to the Argyle HR Solutions Expo. My name is Brittany Sullivan with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. During the session, we encourage you to submit your questions and comments in the Q&A box on your screen. Following the presentation, we have set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on your questions. Thank you again for joining us. Now let's get started. Without further delay, I would love to introduce our speaker, Tim Young, Senior Vice President, Human Resources Operations at Pearson. We are excited to have Tim with us for a keynote titled Implementing AI in HR. Welcome, Tim, and over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Brittany. Everyone, thank you for joining today. I'm excited to share with you some real-world insights. Today, you might tell from my background, I'm in a hotel attending a technology conference where everything is about AI and how it gets implemented in HR. But because it's such a big buzz, I think oftentimes we forget that in the real world, we move from kind of those beautiful demos into how does this actually come together. So the purpose of today's conversation is to help you as a payroll practitioner to go from what looks like the beautiful art of the possible, right, into the practical, how do I make a business case for this? How do I assemble the right resources and team members to make this happen? And then what can I expect as an outcome? My time at Pearson and at previous companies has been largely spent, I mean, not holistically, it's not my only job, but a large part of what I've been trying to do at each is to try and help us get to a better state of automation, intelligent automation. And so today I'm going to share some of the good, the bad, the ugly of that process. Let me start just a little bit of so that you understand organizationally how this will compare to you, a little bit about where I'm coming from. So Pearson is a company and a brand that you may have remembered from your college days by buying our textbooks. You may have gone to one of our many testing centers in any medium to large city where you could have gotten, say, a SHRM certification or demonstrated a certain skill. And if you have children in K through 12 here in the United States or in the UK, chances are their end of year exams were graded by people from Pearson. So the context of our business is learning and trying to help people learn and assess that learning at a global scale. So from a company standpoint, we are about 17,000 regular full-time employees. And then I mentioned the end of year exams. We do bring in about 100,000 seasonal employees who come in and do those end of year exams in several countries. Our employee population spreads across over 60 countries. And my team, the HR operations team at Pearson, is about 150 members strong. Now, I put another number in here because as I came to the company several years ago, one of the things I recognized is we were over 1% of the total employee population, which was too large. And so we've been working very hard using automation, using process optimization and other tools to really right size how we should be relative to the larger organization. And that's resulted in about a 40% reduction in our overall headcount. Again, through some of the tools we'll be talking through today. The remit of my team is inclusive of all of HR shared services, our country HR, which is a little different. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that today, but it's a model that we use to have kind of a global and a glocal, as we call it, shared services in country HR. I do also have global payroll in my team, and we have a project management office and what we call a digital experience team, which is relevant to what we'll be talking through today. So I think it's important for all of us to recognize, and I'm sure we do, that while there is a lot of really great looking technology out there, it is now a very, very crowded field of suppliers and opportunities out there, and they're multiplying by the hour, it feels like. And so when we have to practically go forward with our leadership and leverage a budget that may not be huge, or we're competing against maybe our product side or other internal functions for that finite pool of money, I want to help you through your pitch a little bit and how you take this to those leaders and go against a crowded field of competition to say, this is why in HR we need to bring AI into the mix. So I'm going to share this next slide, which is going to give you, at least from my standpoint, a great big picture of why this is important. So I've titled this Pearson's Personal Assistant. I have a code name for it as well. I call it Jarvis, if you've watched Iron Man. But when we think about this, we're thinking holistically about what do we want employees to be able to access, and what does that differentiated experience look like? And we're going to start at the support level, though I'm going to expand that a little bit, because I think as AI progresses, as it continuously is, that we can even get it beyond what I'm showing here. But the pitch is really about, as an employee who needs to be spending a maximum amount of their time doing what they're here to do, when they do need to access support or to do a task within the company, we want to make that as easy and smooth and as possible. And so what we're saying here is our end game is 24/7 intelligent, fast results. I don't need to wait for business hours or follow the sun or a specific person. It's in the flow of work, meaning in my case, it's going to be in Microsoft Teams. It might be in Slack or some other tool that you're using, so that it's in a place where I don't have to go find it and navigate it and just wonder, hey, where can I do this? It should be right where I'm always in all day and be able to get the answers or do the transactions I want. One, on a similar line, one gateway for help, so that I don't have a separate knowledge base or SharePoints or other things out there that individuals need to access. And then a single source of truth. This is a big one. Anyone who's been in this community a while gets frustrated by the fact that there's different areas out there where people can find answers, and it's hard to keep those updated, hard to keep those refreshed, hard to know what to retire and what not to retire. So we really want to make sure everything is coming together in this one personal assistant. What are the benefits? I have 3 different personas here: employees, managers, candidates. I want to just mainly call out for employers, though this is true for others. One of the best things you can do for your pitch is to not make it just about HR. And if I'm an employee and I have a question about access to maybe the payroll system, I'm having troubles with that. I don't know if that's an IT question. I don't know if, I don't know if organizationally if payroll sits in HR or in finance. And so I don't want my employee to have to go guess on which tool, because over time there'll be more and more AI bots out there. I want everything to be done in this one place. And so that gets more expansive too. It starts to include things that are purely not HR related, like I need to reset my password, or I need to order equipment, or I have an expense report I need to get done. And so the vision here, again, this is a vision underline. I don't have all of this solved yet, but the vision is that employees can do all of those things in one place. And it's, again, back in the flow of the work, 24/7, et cetera. Managers also, they have a few extra needs that we want our bot to be able to do. Now, candidates are different because we're using a different channel or different plane. They're not internal yet. They don't have access maybe to the internal chat. And so we still want them to have support as they're going through the application process, to answer their questions, to do interview scheduling, and to answer questions about your company. Now, I've got maybe a provocative point here on the right, which is this truly better than human help? Certainly it can be for some things, not everything, but I would say for the things that are within that box of something where an employee just needs to get something done or just needs information, then this is better than human help if all of those things are working. I will distinguish that then to say there are some things that a bot will never replace well, and we always want to have a human to do that. But let me get to my next slide, which will show you what, as we think about that, we still need to plan for specific sorts of things that a human should be in the loop. What I'm showing is, and actually mine is somewhere in the middle here, but I would say my former state, or here current state, is the traditional shared services model, where I first want you to go to a tier 0 and look up knowledge articles. I want you to enter search terms and kind of scour through the search results and find what you're looking for. And if that doesn't get you what you want, or it's not really something that you can find in a knowledge article, I want you to go open a ticket or a case. And with that, maybe it's through chat or phone, or maybe you're just entering it into a system and you're waiting. And you may get to a level 1 person who's the wrong person, or you might get transferred. And as we all know, because we've all been through this experience in many different settings, that can be pretty frustrating, as is tier 0 if you're not finding what you need. And then, again, a tier 2 would also be in our current state model, talking to a human expert. We hope, right? We hope that they're the expert that we need to talk to, and then escalations and so on. The vision now moves over to the right that we're handling tier 0 and tier 1 with agent chat. Now, from a business case standpoint, tier 0 is already really cheap. And most of us try to really optimize tier 1 by low cost locations and bringing kind of a shared services team together to make that happen. So by doing those via an agent, we are expediting the experience. We're not saving a ton of money yet, right? But we are possibly saving some. And then, as I was kind of building to this point earlier, we do want our bot to know that it should not be talking to employees or candidates about some sensitive topics, right? If an employee comes and says, I feel like there's been some inappropriate behavior, or I feel like, or I'm unwell and I need to go out on a leave to get a surgery, right? Those sorts of things should not be attempted to be answered by a bot. We would want the bot to recognize, I can't do that. I need to route this now specifically to a person in the benefits team or a person in employee relations. And the bot needs to know who they are. And so that transaction can move swiftly to the right person. And the employee feels supported, both because they started in an easy place, they asked their question, and it knew exactly where to take them after, to a human, because that's the appropriate place. So that's our agentic state. Over time, systematically, we want to do tier 0 and tier 1 increasingly with the agent, but then we recognize there's a level above that we need a human in the loop. Okay, now this is the support side. If you are in kind of the world I'm in, this is like the next generation of what used to be shared services, right? But as I look at what we're able to do here, answer questions based off of information that I choose in the LLM or large language model of my bot, I realize that there are more spaces, more territory that we can cover. So just to be a little provocative here, some of you may be business partners. I have been in the past as well. But as I think about what an HR business partner does all day and what we want an HR business partner, specifically in a strategic role, to do, there are a lot of things that happen that don't fit in that category of what I want the business partner to be doing, but still must be done. And shared services traditionally has not been a good place to do that. But with the advent of AI and as it evolves, I can see that if it's a matter of coaching new managers or helping a manager work through a performance situation, that's all information that I can train my bot to give ideas, to answer questions, or even to spar a little bit, right? To role play with the manager. Those are things AI can do. What about clarifying a policy given a certain situation? Well, AI can do that as well. What if I need to look at the data for my organization and do an evaluation of it? Well, AI can do that too. These are things that AI now, as I think about this bot, if it knows who I am, it knows my role, it knows what data I should have access to, and it has an expanding LLM and systems access, right? It can increasingly not take over the role of business partner, right? But can do a lot of the things that take away from the time I want my business partner to be spending on other things. So I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes out of PowerPoint for the most part. And what I want to do is walk us through the realities of implementing an AI, because there is a difference, a pretty big gap, in fact, between what appears to be possible and what the reality is for most of us. So while I've given you a grandiose vision, I've had some successes and some pretty big failures in this process. And I want to help you to think through in your context what you should be doing to avoid the pitfalls, though we do learn from them, but then also be successful. So I'm going to give you 3 kind of real demos, well, 2 demos, but kind of 3 scenarios here. The first one I'm going to give you is going to be the good. This worked out really well for us. It is a low code, no code AI development platform that has a very reasonable price point and a very reasonable a licensing cost over time. We developed a bot around careers. And I'm going to show you here in a minute what I mean by that. We call it CAR, a career agent or career architecture agent. And it's really meant for our people in the company to learn about a new career architecture that we just implemented and to understand things about what's expected of them in their role, what skills should they have, and also importantly, how do they develop their career. Now, the 1.0 version of this can do things such as answer internal questions about their careers, knows you enough about you, right? It knows your level, it knows your role, and it can start to answer some questions about progression. It can't yet tell you, I think you should take this training, right? It can't tell you what open jobs are for whatever your target next job is. And it can't yet aid with goals and performance, but those things are on our roadmap. So in a year from now, I hope to say I can do all three of those things. Let me stop sharing the PowerPoint for a moment, and I'm going to pull you up live here into Kara. And with Kara, I'm going to show you in a platform that is Microsoft Teams. Some of you will have Microsoft Teams, and it's going to show you a live version of what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to pull open Teams and get to the right window. So this is real time, folks. I'm going to take you to my chat. Now, sorry if you start seeing other chats come through right now, but I'm going to pull up Kara 2.0. Now, Kara 2.0 is going live. So 1.0 is live. You can see I have a Kara chat above it. 2.0 is going live next week. So we're still testing it. And you can see up here, hopefully, if you squint, that I have, in fact, I can probably zoom in a little bit for you. I've asked it a couple questions this morning just to get ready for this, and then I'm going to ask it another question so you can see it live. I've asked, what skills do I need today that would be transferable to an HRBP role, right? So maybe I aspire to being a business partner. So it's now going to say, okay, Tim, you are currently in HR operations at L45. That's our internal grading system. And so the skills that you have today that would be useful are the skills. It knows what skills I'm supposed to have at an L45. It knows what an HR business partner should have. And it's now saying, hey, these are the nice things that you can already do that will be transferable. And gives me a little bit of advice, right? If I'm trying to pivot to be an HRBP, where I shift from operational excellence to strategic partnership, right? This is Kara trained in, like I said, 3 months with our information, and now it can answer questions to this level. So what's expected of me in my role? Now I'm going to start another one because it's going to take Kara, 10 seconds or so to answer it. But what's expected of me in my role? It's going to now say, based off of what we've predefined for an L45 in HR operations, here are some of the expectations that it wants me to be able to, not it, Kara, but as a company, that we want me to be able to do in my role. And I can use this, by the way, as a leader, or for me as an individual to really start to think about what a person at my level and my tier, or excuse me, in my role should be able to do. Now, it's now answered my next question. What skills are needed for your HR operations role, right? And this is where I can now look, and based off of our skills model, I can now see what categories. So we've got 4 different categories of skills. We've got proficiency levels of those and what focuses are. So all this, again, is a Gen AI solution, very minimal cost, something we implemented recently and very quickly. And now you can see, okay, wow, what's possible now? What more can it know about me? And what integrations can we bring into other jobs in the company? What integrations can we bring about learning results? And all of that can be built in for relatively cheap. So this is why this is the good. We love Kara. Kara is doing great things and being able to answer questions for employees and helping them. Okay, so that was the first one. I'm going to now go back to my deck for just a moment and talk about one that was not as successful. So I call this one the bad. It is successful in the sense that it is working and it is doing an okay job, right? but it's not to the point that I am proud of it. So let me just kind of talk you through this one briefly. So the bad is what we call My Help. It's a support agent, right? It's based in our enterprise service management platform. Not going to name any names here. And it costs us about $200, or excuse me, that should have a K next to it. It's not $200 a year, it's $200,000 a year. Very important. That K is quite a few zeros. And then the time to implement was about 6 months. So what does it do well? It can generate summaries from knowledge articles, and eventually it will be able to pull from SharePoint. And we can move it to our enterprise messaging system like in Teams, and I'll show you in a moment. But what it can't yet do is transact with the HCM, so it can't really go and do those transactions I want it to be able to do, as I showed in a previous slide. And my biggest complaint right now is honestly, it can't really self-improve underlying content. It doesn't know what's gone wrong in a situation if the employee didn't get the answer they want, and it doesn't really feed me that information back, and then it doesn't help me to improve the content. It doesn't get smarter on its own. So I'm calling this bad just because, again, it's not really what I would like it to do yet. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to go right back to where we were, and I'm going to pull up My Help instead of Kara. And again, I've kind of started some questions here. I've started a question about tuition reimbursement. And so it's answered that question. You can see it's citing some articles in here about, how I can be eligible for it. It's not telling me how much I can, which was my specific question, but it's starting to give me some details around it. And then I asked it a very unrelated question, which is how much time off does a U.S. employee get after 2 years? The good of this is it gave me the right answer. But then the bad of it is I had to specify that I'm a U.S. employee because it gets a little confused. I'm a manager. I have special HR access in my case. And so if I hadn't asked the U.S. aspect to it correctly, it might have given me an answer for the U.K. or the Philippines or something else. So again, it's not as smart as I want it to be yet. It's getting better, and I understand with upcoming releases, it will get better and better. But it's still not to the point where I'm just super excited about these results, and I'm going to go brag about it to a group of however many people are on this. So the last one I want to share then is what I just call the ugly, right? And this is probably our biggest failure to date in the front of AI. And in this one, we tried the same low no code AI development platform as the good in Kara. We also developed an interview scheduling tool. This is much more complex, right? Because now we're dealing with calendars, we're dealing with people in the company and outside the company. And we tried to develop this out, and it cost us a lot. It cost us about almost a year of time. And it's good when we're talking about, kind of the classic, hey, candidate and an interviewer have the same time that works well. They schedule it. Nothing happens after that. Everyone shows up to it, right? It can do those things okay. But oftentimes schedules change. People are not responsive. Maybe, the interviewer's, calendar is fairly blocked. So in that sense, it wasn't working very well. And then it doesn't really give generative responses either, right? Which is kind of old school, but it wasn't, it couldn't answer an employee's question if they're like, hey, what's it like working at Pearson, or what are the benefits like? All right, so I'm going to wrap here and then go to questions. I would say from a practical standpoint, and I've covered some of this to a degree, but get help. Make sure that in your HR function, you're not thinking you just need the same skills as you always have. Your team needs to evolve, and that might require some important hires for you to bring in people with these skills. It has been a huge game changer for me to bring in people without even HR backgrounds that they can come in and really support what we're doing. A second is to, get agile and think about my Kara example versus my interview scheduling example. When we go after Kara, we're going like in a fast iterative cycle, and we're developing a product. And in the latter one, we were kind of going old school, kind of a waterfall methodology. And I think just thinking about like we're going to build a basic product and build, and test as we go, that's more effective. And then finally, get started. I'm much more evolved in my thinking because I failed a few times and because I've tried some things. And now I can see a much clearer path to getting to my vision than had I just come to a session like this and seen someone's PowerPoint. So with that, everyone, I'm going to answer some questions that have come through. Feel free to add in more, and Brittany is going to help me with kind of passing those along. And we have just a few minutes left, so I'll try to get through as many as I can. The first one is, what role should HR play in driving AI adoption when IT or other departments may be hesitant? Okay, great question. I think if there's a lot of reasons IT is hesitant. They're worried about data security. They're worried about privacy. They're worried about a proliferation of AI agents and other things, and those are all really relevant. But I would say if they don't feel massive pressure right now to evolve, you might have the wrong IT team. So I think HR's role in this is really to push the envelope and getting senior level support to pitch some of the ideas maybe that I've shared, or there's plenty of others out there, and just show this is a strong business case. We are going to get big value as a company for this. And by the way, HR can truly, for some companies who have products out there, can really show the way, pave the way for AI adoption and really bringing to the future that we're all going to have to play with over time. So again, maybe you find some low code, easy, get them out the door models that don't require a lot of integrations to get your IT team comfortable, and then go build from there. Question number 2, what strategies work best for addressing employee concerns or fears about AI replacing jobs? I'm going to quote someone I heard from the other day, and it's a loose quote, but essentially his point was AI will replace work. We know it has to replace work. The people who are best set up for success in the future are those who know how to use AI, not the people who are running from it. So for me, it's AI literacy is the best gift we can give our employees, especially those who are worried about it, because they're afraid of the unknown. And as are we all, by the way. And I think the more we learn about it, the more we understand AI used well is going to augment and improve what humans can do. And it is going to replace some of what we do. And so I know we all kind of know where this story leads to, which is we evolve and our work evolves. But that's not going to be clear to people who are staying out of the game of AI. So increase literacy campaigns, helping them know how to use AI in their job, and maybe even encouraging them to show how AI can do parts of their job will help them understand that they need to be part of this story and not fighting against it or running away from it, because there's nowhere to run. Next question, in your experience, what are the most overlooked factors that determine whether AI adoption succeeds or fails? I think for us, what I've observed with a lot of the tech vendors out there is they have created a perfect environment for their AI to succeed, and in order for them to demonstrate it, and as they should, right? But the realities of every company are slightly different. Where they're getting their information from, what systems are available, what their policies are, and so I think in order for it to succeed, if you can find, like my car agent, something that you can start the process for and expand from there, I think you can overcome some of those challenges. But what you will face is integration to your core systems. If you want it to know things about the person who's asking the question or to transact with them, it's got to know who they are. And those integrations are a little bit more costly and challenging. So anyway, I think you'll be able to figure it out as you get going, but those are some of the challenges that I'd expect. So thank you, everyone. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Brittany.
Thank you again, Tim, for such an incredible keynote. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be made available on demand following the event. This does officially conclude the Argyle HR Solutions Expo, so thank you again for joining us and engaging in our content. We look forward to seeing you at our next Argyle event soon. Have a great rest of your day.